Welcome back. You're watching ED Insight. The draft Microfinance Bill 2011 promises to bring in much-needed stability and maturity in the sector. However, it's also a wake-up call for small and medium-sized players who are struggling to deal with growing competition, high costs and dwindling margins. The proposed bill spells out stringent norms, which means that only the fittest will survive in the industry. Consolidation then seems to be the only way out. Nikhil Shivadas gets you the story.
26 million clients, serviced by 4,000 odd microfinance institutions, self-help groups and regional rural banks for over a decade. It's an overcrowded marketplace by all standards, and a skewed one at that, considering that the top 25 players account for nearly 75% of the total business of $5 billion. Sooner than later, the free run has to end, and it will, considering that the government plans to regulate the sector.
There is all possibility that there will be quite a few mergers and acquisitions, particularly the smaller institutions. They don't have the wherewithal to even comply to stringent regulation. So that regulation itself might actually push many of the smaller players to look at either selling out their portfolios or merging with other operations.
Selling out or merging is the best option because small and medium-sized MFIs are struggling to be profitable. A survey on 230 MFIs by Sadan revealed that 1 in every 3 MFIs was loss-making. NBFCs and Section 25 companies, or those that have both for-profit and non-profit operations, were performing better than the others because they were able to scale up. And societies were the least profitable. According to rating agency CRISIL, the sector has seen a slowdown in growth in the past year, which in turn could trigger consolidation.
The existing entities are the ones because they will have the benefit of achieving scale. They will be able to manage within the regulatory requirements which are there of the capital, of the margins and the interest rate caps, and therefore their ability to grow will be superior compared to entities that are smaller or that are startups. So consolidation is the most likely outcome.
While selling out or merging operations seems like an attractive idea for smaller players, it's easier said than done.
Consolidation is not going to be very easy because, as we have seen, the culture of service provision varies quite dramatically from agency to agency. So the service benchmarks, what would be called typically by any service sector industry, differ from entity to entity. So for two to merge with very different quality of benchmarks might not be feasible. Whereas if you look on the balance sheet side, it might look very feasible that somebody with a strong balance sheet might just work with somebody with a weak balance sheet. But there's a whole reputation risk that comes along with that, and like I said, service benchmarks.
Even so, consolidation could bring that extra zing into the industry's waning fortunes, because larger players can quickly diversify their portfolios and venture into relatively unknown territories with ease. Until now, most of them were fighting it out in saturated markets like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh, and making inroads in populated states like Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. But clearly there's scope for more.
If you go to the total different states, the portfolio 25,000 crores or 30 million customers, if you say that the 40% of the customer in the one state in the AP and 60% of the customer in the all over India. So in that context is there, that is the lot of scope is there to go to the other areas where there is no presence of the microfinance institutions.
But the big challenge is to find the funds to make meaningful acquisitions. The chaos in Andhra Pradesh has made investors nervous. In the past 9 months, few private equity players have come ahead to invest, and bank lending has tightened significantly. There's little hope from the capital markets too. And players like Spandana Spurti Financial, which was expected to debut on Dalal Street in Feb this year, have had to retreat.
Right now, like the equity investors are keeping them away from the microfinance organization. Hardly like we saw any investment during the last 6 months post-AP crisis. So net worth being an issue, even though as a bigger organization, you have resources and you have process and you have systems in place, But again, how are you going to really infuse your equity to be able to acquire smaller organizations is a question.
But this is a temporary problem. The market has always given a thumbs up to better regulations and more transparency. It raises the confidence of investors who in turn are willing to bet on the sector. That's perhaps why the stock of leading player SKS rose substantially following the announcement of the Microfinance Bill of 2011. And now it's clear that the large players with better technology will find it easy to adapt themselves to the changing regulatory environment. And the smaller players will have to cash in and opt out or wait to be swept under.
Well, that's all in this edition of ET Insight. We'll be back next week, but until then, don't forget to write in with your feedback and suggestions. Thanks so much for watching.